These minifigures should be the best of the LEGO Marvel theme, but how do they really rank? Hey, how you doing? My name is Ryan, and today I'm grading every LEGO Marvel CMF minifigure from Series 1 back in 2021 to the Spider-Verse wave in 2025. There are 36 figures to rank, and if these comments on my previous tier list videos are any indication, strap in, buckle up, because your favorite figure just might end up in the C tier. We'll get started with Series 1, and our first figure is the Scarlet Witch. Now, when Series 1 first came out, the Scarlet Witch figure was kind of overhated, mostly because of the questionable paint job on the new molded hairpiece. But outside of that small gaffe, this figure is pretty incredible. All the different shades of red on the torso, the flow from the torso to legs, the dual molded arms with the shoulders being light nougat and the forearm being dark red to show large gloves, and the added bits of printing on the leg all work very well together to translate a rather complicated MCU costume into minifigure form. That being said, the print on the molded hairpiece is a bit of a disappointment. I wish it either had detail like the figure found in the Sanctum Sanctorum set, or the dark red just filled that small gap at the edge of the molded hairpiece. Because of the hair, I can't put this figure in S tier, but I can easily put the Scarlet Witch into A tier. Next up though, her companion, the Vision. The balance of white, gray, and gold is admirable, with the gold being sort of muscle accent highlights and the white lines being used to separate the various sections on the torso. The face is kind of just a Vision figure with all the saturation pulled out, but the dual molded legs do look quite nice. However, I think this CMF Vision figure is a victim of its time period, as a few years later, LEGO would make an incredible retail Vision figure in the Avengers Tower set, with semi-translucent printing and a cape piece in vinyl that's perfect. Don't get me wrong, the white Vision figure is very good, but the fact that a retail figure beat it, even though the set did cost $500, does knock this white Vision down a peg, so I'm going to put it into the B tier. But what about our next figure, Monica Rambeau? And this one is just a letdown. Blank legs are really odd for a CMF figure, a really plain torso, a little bit of arm printing, and a face that's practically reused from the Maria Rambeau Comic-Con figure, with just the alternate head being a little bit different. The custom hairpiece though is quite nice, but that's really all this figure has going for it. You put it side by side the Hoopty retail figure from a few years later, and they're practically identical minus the arm printing. It also kind of feels off that the one unique piece for the CMF figure is reused for the retail version. That feels a little bit wrong, if you ask me. Either way, Monica Rambeau would be a mid-tier retail figure, but a C-tier CMF figure for sure. But what about Bucky Barnes from Falcon and the Winter Soldier? We've had several good Winter Soldier minifigures, but not a lot of great Bucky ones. And while this one is a fine figure, it's not all that good if you ask me. The unique face print looks a little bit generic, the torso printing is accurate but kinda boring, the leg printing rather minimal, and even though the black and gold arm does look quite nice, I think the Wakanda arm was done better in the Bricktober pack series from 2018. In fact, I think that Bricktober figure is superior to this one in almost every category. The CMF Bucky was also one of like 4 or 5 figures to have a Captain America shield in this wave, and I just don't think he needed it. So despite being a great character, I'm putting this figure into the C tier. How about his counterpart though, Captain America Sam Wilson? And despite the fact that almost every version of Sam Wilson's Captain America has a really involved print job, this first one is just perfection. The balance of colors, the white, the red, the blue, the black, and also the fact that all the wing pieces are printed parts and not stickers. The new Sam Wilson head print is also fantastic, with a great amount of contrast on a white head with a reddish-brown face print on it. LEGO was very smart to have that be the combination as opposed to the opposite, a reddish-brown head with white printing on it. That would have turned out kind of messy. Every choice the designers made for this figure was the right one, so I'm putting Captain America into the S tier. Next up on the list is Loki in his TVA outfit. And I think this figure is very well done, but kind of simplistic. While the face print and hair choice are dead on ringers for Tom Hiddleston, I do kind of think the costume choice here holds the figure back a little bit. The jacket and legs are very well rendered, but kind of generic and plain. The only real interesting aspects are the little bit of coattail on the hip piece and the TVA logo and variant print on the back of the torso. I do think LEGO recognized that shortcoming and loaded this figure with accessories. The TVA mug is very well handled, and Frog Thor is a delight to have. However, if I'm looking at just the figure itself, while it does look quite nice, I wouldn't call it really CMF quality, so I'll put Loki into the B tier. How about his companion Sylvie though? And this figure just kind of looks like a retail figure. Sylvie for one has blank legs. She also has a really odd giant green knife which I get what they're going for, I just don't think that piece was the right decision. Also, the face print on Sylvie is kind of happier than she probably should be. There's very few times this character smiles with joy in the Loki show. She should have been all angry, all serious, no nonsense. And while the molded headpiece with the crowns is a good idea, I don't think it looks as great as it should. We do get an alligator Loki accessory, but that really can't bring this figure out from the C tier. How about a fan favorite though? Zombie Hunter Spider-Man. A lot of people think this costume is one of the best Spider-Man figures we've ever seen. And at the time of release in 2021, I would have agreed with you. But since then, we've gotten so many good retail Spider-Man suits, from the Sanctum set to the Civil War airport battle, the black and red suit, the integrated suit, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. This Zombie Hunter figure kinda gets lost in the shuffle. That being said, it still is a really great Spider-Man figure with a lot of good detailing on the blue accents, the webbing looking crisp, the eyes being perfect, the dual molded legs looking nice. I do think this figure works better without the cape, kind of pulling it away from What If. Without the cape, this figure looks just like the Avengers Campus Spider-Man from Disneyland, California. I know that wasn't the intention of the designers, but it does look really good that way. When you add the cape on, yeah, it still is a great figure. I just don't think it really stands up nowadays against all the other retail Spider-Man figures we've seen, so I'm gonna put the Zombie Hunter into the A tier. Keeping with What If, it's Zombie Captain America. And it's really strange and a bit frustrating that one of our best Captain America figures ever made is a zombie. The amount of detail in this design is incredible, from all the wear and tear on the torso, to the multicolored dual molded legs with red on one side for the boot and light blue on the other for the exposed flesh, to the different colored arms, the wear and tear and dirt on the helmet, and an incredible scratched up, worn down shield. And take note, Avengers Endgame Battle from 2025, that's how you do a broken shield print. There's really not much else to say about this figure, it's that good. I'm putting Zombie Captain America into the S tier. How about though a hero from What If? It's Captain Carter. And again, this is the level of detail a lot of people want for a LEGO Captain America minifigure. It just happens to be his British counterpart this time. The dual molded printed boots are incredible, the arm printing is clean and also very versatile, the face print is picturesque, the custom hairpiece looks really nice, the Captain Carter Union Jack shield is also really well done, the color contrast on the torso with the red, white, blue, and dark brown are really well handled. However, if I have to nitpick, the belt and shoulder straps on the torso do get a little bit lost in the design, as they're not big enough, wide enough, or have a thick enough black line around them to separate it from the other layers. For that small nitpick, I am putting Captain Carter into the A tier, as she's still a very good figure. Next up though, it's T'Challa Star-Lord. And thankfully, this figure is not just a recolor of other Star-Lord figures, it's clearly an improvement. The lavender and gold highlights on the purple torso look wonderful, the dual molded leg boot prints with side thrusters are a great touch, the face print looks nice, the new helmet mold with the T'Challa hair is fantastic with purple eyes this time. Not only is this figure a great send-off to Chadwick Boseman, it's a really great molding of everything good about Star-Lord figures and everything good about Black Panther figures. Although again, if I have to nitpick, I do wish we got some arm printing on this character. It would have put it that much more over the edge. Either way, I'm putting T'Challa Star-Lord into the A tier. And that leaves us with one more figure from Wave 1, Gamora. And she looks complicated at first glance, but look a little bit closer and you realize she's not all that different from other Thanos minifigures. I mean, just a year later, we get this one that looks eerily similar to her What If design. But on the positives, all the line work looks nice, all the printing on the legs is good, the printing on the arms is well done, the one-off face and hair do look good. I just think it all looks a bit too similar to what we've seen before. I mean, you put this face print side by side other Gamora figures, and I just don't think there's enough differentiation between the CMF version and the retail version. Same with the hairpiece. I'm not saying Gamora is a bad figure, I think she's just too close to what we've seen before. For that, I'm putting her into the B tier. With one wave down, let's move on to Series 2, and our first figure is Agatha Harkness, a fan favorite a lot of us were excited to see in LEGO form, and this CMF version does not disappoint. The detailed line work in the torso and skirt piece make this figure's costume feel old and ancient and mystic. The flow from the torso to legs is also fantastic. The brooch print is incredibly detailed but still quite visible, and the wild hair piece and face print are absolute picturesque. And while there's no arm printing or really complex printing on the back of the sloped skirt piece, I do think there's enough detail in this figure to balance that out, and I think it belongs easily and comfortably into the A tier. Let's keep with the weird mystic theme and move on to Moon Knight. This is a character that a lot of off-brand creators were making their own versions of before LEGO tried their hand at it. And while the off-brand versions really couldn't nail the balance between amount of detail but not overloading the figure with lines, this CMF figure from LEGO absolutely strikes the balance perfectly. All the bandage work on the torso and legs look fantastic, the arm printing is incredibly detailed while still being visible, the pops of gold are beautiful, the dual molded legs have a nice gray boot print to provide some color contrast, the face print is absolutely exquisite with a little bit of bandage work on there as well, the hood piece with the moon on it is perfect. I love when LEGO designers prove they're the best of what they do. This Moon Knight figure blows every other off-brand version out of the water, and Moon Knight goes into the S tier. But how about his counterpart, Mr. Knight? Here, I think the costume didn't provide LEGO a lot of opportunities to add all that much to the figure, and because of it, I think the design suffers. Not only is the design far more one color, with it being mostly white with not a lot of gray on it, but the blank arms don't help this figure at all, neither does a rather minimalist leg print, with most of it being just 2 lines down the legs. While I do like the stitched look of the face print, I don't think this figure really does all that much to elevate it to CMF status, so unfortunately, I have to put Mr. Knight into the C tier. But what about the werewolf from Werewolf by Night? This character was a fascinating inclusion into Series 2, and although I do like it in color, I kinda wish it was in black and white to match his appearance in the special. It would have given LEGO a really fun challenge to make an incredibly detailed monochromatic figure. But for what we got, the brown and green do play rather well with each other. I love the bits of fur scattered across the entire figure, from the legs to the torso to the arms to the face. The new hairpiece with the ears I think looks rather nice. And I'll give credit where credit is due, printing a dark tan face onto a reddish brown head with this much color contrast is an accomplishment. Still, when I think about this figure, I think it's good, not great, not superb, and I think more about the missed opportunities what this figure could have been. For that, I'm putting the werewolf into the B tier. Next up, it's She-Hulk, a character whose first figure is one of the more valuable Marvel collectibles. So how does the CMF figure stand up? Well, it's pretty fantastic actually. The balance of white, black, and purple is really quite fantastic, with the purple acting as kind of a dark highlight. Yes, I said dark highlight, and the white acting as an actual highlight for the character. Not only that, but the lime green dual molded arms, the bit of lime green printing on the dual molded legs to make it look like there's a pants, a bit of skin, and then a boot is really well handled, the face print rather well handled, and the dark green hairpiece is the cherry on top. This She-Hulk figure is one of the reasons why I don't really do a lot of LEGO investing, as if you wait long enough, a better version of whatever character you're looking at just might appear for less. I'm putting She-Hulk into the S tier. But what about Kate Bishop from the Hawkeye show? I do quite like the balance of purple and pink on this costume. The little bits of purple on the legs I think look quite nice. The printing on the side of the black legs is rather good too. The minimal line work on the leg printing though is a little bit of a letdown, but the face and hair print I think look just like Kate Bishop. My only real gripes with this figure is that the torso looks a little bit flat and could have used a bit of that MCU texturing, and the legs do look a little bit blank as I mentioned earlier. For that, I'm putting this figure into the B tier. It's good, but not all that great. Now, how about Hawkeye himself? And this figure is just a bit of a letdown, unfortunately. First of all, there's blank legs, and I think just as a general rule of practice for CMF figures, they shouldn't have blank legs. But also, what printing there is rather minimal and kind of boring. The torso, while accurate to the character, just lacks a lot of layering or texturing. The arm printing is pretty minimalist too, and while the face and hair are the best approximations of actor Jeremy Renner we've seen so far, I just wish the torso and leg print rose to the occasion to match that level of quality. So yeah, only 1/3 of the Hawkeye figure is all that noteworthy, so Hawkeye goes into the C tier. Moving on to our next figure, it's Goliath from What If, and this is a very strange figure design, kind of acting as a hybrid between an Ant-Man figure and a spacesuit. It's a very detailed design with all this line work, the knee pads look great, The belt looks quite nice, the chest piece is good, the bit of blue on the center looks nice, the arm printing's great, the printing on the face mask. I just feel like this design kind of lacks the Ant-Man elements of an Ant-Man figure. Outside of the helmet, you pull it off and it just kind of looks like a spaceman figure. Now again, that's more of a fault to the character design than the figure design, but I do wish LEGO added a bit more Ant-Man-ness to this figure of Goliath. So I'm putting Goliath into the B tier. Next up, it's Echo, one of our first ever TV mature minifigures. Although you wouldn't be able to tell the show was all that hardcore from this figure design. This figure is a rather nice mesh of Native American culture and Marvel superhero costumes, with the added stitch marks, the sun emblem, the detailing on all the gold pieces, the hair piece. The new leg mold with the amputee leg is really well done, and the printing on the legs overall is quite nice. The only real gripe I have is the face. While the angry alternate looks really nice, I don't think the smirk works all that well for Maya. This is a character who's no nonsense, almost always has a frown on her face, and I do wish the figure accurately represented that. Still, credit where credit is due, Echo is a great figure and belongs into the A tier. Now we move on to our X-Men 97 figures, and up first is Beast. It is great to have a comic accurate Beast figure in all his blue glory. The fur printing on the torso looks great, the legs look quite nice too with the little claws on the feet. The hair piece is wonderful looking with the ears and the black streak, and I do think the glasses face expression better captures the Beast character than his alternate head. I also wish there was some fur printing on the arms here that would have taken this figure over the top that much more. Still a solid version of the character, I'm putting Beast into the A tier. But how about Storm, who was long overdue for a remake since her first figure appearance back in the early 2010s. And I think the white look is clean, pristine, but a bit too minimalist. Again, this is the problem of trying to translate cartoon characters into minifigure form, as the cartoon designs are rather simple, so the figure design has to be simple as well. I mean, look at the leg print, there's only about 4 or 5 lines on it overall, and while that printing is certainly appreciated, look back to the X-Mansion Storm figure without leg printing for how imbalanced that could look when the legs are just blank white. I do wish there was a little bit more texture on this CMF figure. The torso though is well balanced, although I do wish that yellow band was a bit wider, as was the belt. The cloth cape piece that goes into the arms is always a great touch, and the face print with the blue eyes is fantastic looking, as is that white mohawk. I do sometimes struggle with how to grade these figures because while they do accurately represent the design of the character they were given, as a figure themselves, they are a bit of a letdown, so I'm going to put Storm into the B tier. She's good, but I do wish she was a little bit more detailed. Now, I should add, the level of detail I'm after for these X-Men 97 figures is possible in LEGO minifigure form. Take a look at our last figure from Wave 2, it's Wolverine. This is what I'm talking about. Every line and element on this figure is used to perfection. Even though the comic character is a simple design, every line has been translated perfectly to this figure. From the arm hair, to the blue shoulders, to the tricolor legs with the blue spandex and blue boots, to the incredible face print with mutton chops and a frown on his face. That's Wolverine. The CMF Wolverine is a great example of how to translate a simple design into a solid minifigure. And while not hitting the highs of say Moon Knight or She-Hulk, I do think Wolverine belongs into the A tier. But now we have Wave 3, the Spider-Verse characters, and in the movies, these designs are incredibly done. So how do they translate into minifigure form? Let's start off first with Miles Morales, and Miles has a fine design with a rather clean looking torso, some subtle leg printing, some arm printing, and some electricity going across his arms and torso. But if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit jaded by the LEGO tradition of putting out a mediocre version of the CMF character in a retail set. So we have the Spider-Verse Bodega with Miles Morales, and then a better version of Miles Morales in the CMF wave. If you already had that character design in the works, why not put the better Miles in the set and then have a more unique character that you wouldn't see in a retail set in the CMF wave? None of this has to do with the figure itself, but the context around the figure. And while every part from the face, the hair, the torso, legs, and arms does work rather well, I am going to put Miles Morales into the B tier for being a little bit redundant. But next up, it's Spider-Punk, and this is a far more unique design that we'd never see in a set. From the crazy hairpiece, the really fantastic face print with the piercings on the lip and eyebrow, the torn up jacket and shirt, the dual molded legs, the arm printing, everything works really well here. And this is a very unique character design that's translated incredibly well into a minifigure form that I think we would never see in a LEGO set. Add to the figure a really cool looking Spider-Man mask with a graffiti-like eyes, and you have a figure that easily belongs into the S tier. But what about Miles G. Morales, otherwise known as the Prowler? I do quite like this figure design. All the purple and lavender works well, the bits of blue accents looks nice, the dual molded arms with printing on them are well done. The legs are a little bit simplistic, but I think it flows rather well. What puts this figure over the edge for me are the new molded pieces, like the hair and the new face mask with hair. Those are fantastic looking. I do wish LEGO designed a new claw piece besides this giant hand. I'm kind of sick of seeing it, but I do think the Prowler is one of the cases where it works rather well. Those gloves are supposed to be a bit oversized, so LEGO, you gotta pass on this one. I think this figure goes into the A tier. Moving down the list, it's Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen, and we've seen this figure before, we've seen her in comics, we've seen her in the Bodega set, and I think the CMF version, despite being the best Gwen we've ever seen, is just kind of okay. Positives here, the dual molding on the legs with side printing to show the laces on the shoes, well done. The arm printing, simple but effective. The new face, I think looks great. The new hairpiece, I think is fantastic. But unlike Moon Knight, for example, where people have been trying to make Moon Knight for some time and failing at it, plenty of people have made really good Gwen Stacy Spider-Ghost figures like Firestar Toys. So when LEGO makes their CMF version and it's just the same level of quality, if not a little bit worse, that's a bit of a letdown. Again, the figure's not bad, it's just not all inspiring. So I'm putting Spider-Gwen into the B tier. What about a fan favorite making his figure return? It's Miguel O'Hara as Spider-Man 2099. This is a character whose original figure has gone crazy in value, and this remake I think is worth every penny. The dot pattern on the torso and legs is a really great translation of his costume from the movie. The vinyl cape I think looks fantastic. I love when LEGO uses more of these. The face print with those defined cheek lines is rather accurate. The hairpiece I think looks good too. If I had to nitpick, I think the leg printing is a touch minimalist for my liking, but I do love the flow of the dots from the face to the torso to the legs. It works so well and it's so clean. This is one of those figures where it's worth every penny to upgrade to the new version. While the original looks great, this new one is that much better. I'm putting 2099 into the S tier. But what about Spider-Man India, a character whose design kind of deviates from the traditional Spider-Man costume? I do think all the folds and the fabric look nice, the belt looks quite clean. I love the sort of robe printing on the legs, the arms have some nice detail on them. I'm a big fan of the shade of blue used on this character, as well as the Spider-Man emblem itself with a very clean outline around it to have it stand out that much more. The face with the added headband is a bit simplistic, but I think does the trick. But one of the best parts of this character is the Spider-Man mask. It has all these markings and patterns that feels very religious and traditional. It's a really unique touch here. Now, something I need to mention with this character and the other Spider-Verse figures in this wave is I'm not going to include the animals or accessories as part of my ranking. So while Spider-Man India comes with a new cat with a Spider-Man mask on it, I don't think I'm going to have accessories weigh on the ranking of the figure itself. I'm looking at the design of the figure, not what comes with it. So I'm going to put Spider-Man India into the A tier. Next up, it's Petra Parker, otherwise known as Cyborg Spider-Woman. And this might be the first CMF figure I've ever seen that looks like a knockoff character. Part of that is the fact that Cyborg Spider-Woman has both web patterns and chains on top of that to make a really complicated torso design that I'm not sure works all that well. All the elements are there, but they're so interwoven on top of each other with very few separations of thick black lines that it's kind of hard to get it all in one glance. I think the Cyborg Spider-Man figure from the book that came out earlier this year does a better job with this design aesthetic. There is some parts I like about Spider-Woman. The leg printing I think is fantastic. The face design is really good. The custom molded mask and shoulder pad would be great for any custom Mad Max figure, as is the robotic arm piece. But looking at the figure as a whole, I think it's way too cluttered and overly complicated to read all that cleanly. So for that, I'm putting Cyborg Spider-Woman into the C tier. But what about Charlotte Weber, otherwise known as Sun Spider? And I think this character is the opposite of Cyborg Spider-Woman, in that it's just a bit too simple. All the elements are clean, the torso, the layering of the jacket on top of the suit, the arm printing, the leg printing, knee pads are nice. The face is bold, bright, and vibrant, but also just so incredibly simple of a design. I think this figure is reliant upon the accessories, the hat and the arm crutches, to make it all that much better, because as a design by itself, it feels very much like a retail figure we'd get in a set. So for that, I think Sun Spider goes into the C tier. Next up, it's Margot Kess, otherwise known as Spider-Bite. And this is a rather fascinating inclusion into this wave. Not the character itself, but the design aesthetic behind it. Whereas all the other figures in the Spider-Verse CMF wave feel like Spider-Man, but this. Spider-Man, but a cowboy. Spider-Man, but a cyborg. Spider-Bite feels like an entirely original character that happens to be a Spider-Man character. If you remove the Spider-Man logo from this character, it feels like an entire different genre of figure, not Spider-Man. That being said, I do quite like the design we have here. I love the wire work on the torso, the pixelation on the legs, the use of translucent parts for the arms and legs is so good. The face print is a bit overly simple, but I think the mask is supposed to balance that out. Spider-Bite is the kind of character I think needs to be in a CMF wave, with very new pieces like translucent legs and arms, a very unique helmet mold, a different aesthetic from other Spider-Man characters, and we'd never get her in a retail set. I think the design is good, but not great. So I'll put Spider-Bite into the A tier. But what about Peter B. Parker, the original Spider-Man, if you will? Now, I kind of have to grade this figure two ways, one with Mayday Parker and one without it. When you have Mayday Parker inside the baby pouch, while you do cover up a lot of the torso, that baby is so well done. I love the printing on the mask, I love the different color head and torso, all works very well there. However, when you remove the baby out of the pouch and the carrier itself, you are left with a rather simple looking Spider-Man figure. The costume looks fine, the robe looks fine, I especially love the use of jaggedy lines in pink to kind of show fluffiness for the robe. Good touch there. The flow from the torso to legs is quite clean. The face print does have some nice expression on it, but the whole thing reads as a bit simple. With Mayday Parker, I can totally see why LEGO put this figure into a CMF wave, but without it, Peter B. Parker kind of feels more like a high-priced retail figure than a CMF one. So for that, I'm putting him into the B tier. Next on the list is the Web Slinger, Patrick O'Hara. And remember what I said about a lot of these characters' gimmicks being Spider-Man, but blank? Well, this is the worst case scenario of that equation. Web Slinger looks like a character that was originally a generic cowboy with a Spider-Man head slapped on top. The only detail that feels like Spider-Man outside the head is the web pattern on the cloth. You remove that and you're left with just a cowboy figure. Even Sheriff Deadpool had his mask icon as the belt buckle to make the entire design feel more cohesive. The Web Slinger is almost entirely reliant on the fact that it comes with a Spider-Man horse. And yes, it's a very nice looking Spider-Man horse, but as a figure by himself, Web Slinger easily goes into the C tier. Last up, a character I never thought we'd get, it's Werewolf Spider-Man. I distinctly remember reviewing the knockoff of this character and being so impressed by the fact that somebody made it, and now we have our own official LEGO version of Spider-Man as a werewolf. And the design here, much like the Marvel Zombies from earlier, is pretty well done. I love the ripped, torn costume. I love the use of dual molded asymmetry on the arms and legs to make this feel more deteriorated. I love the mask feeling more like a shred of a Spider-Man mask put on top of a werewolf head. It all looks really nice. I do wish we had a bit more fur, but the costume itself covers a lot more on the torso. We do have fur on the arms though. The only thing that could have brought this figure, and thinking back the werewolf from Werewolf by Night, over the top is the use of the fawn legs and the Demogorgon legs to give the character a bit more of an animalistic look. But other than that, the print work and design work on Werewolf Spider-Man is pretty excellent, and I'm putting this character into the A tier. And that's my ranking of all of the Marvel CMF characters from Wave 1 to Wave 3. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What's your favorite out of all of these characters, and what's your least favorite too? I want to give a big thank you to all of my channel members for supporting me and making videos like this possible, including new members Dan Stahl Am and Matt Crack. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.